today. Are you ready, Stephen? All right. So for those who don't know me, it's a few of you probably don't. My name is Steve Jornstead, and I have a real long connection with this guy right here, John Andrist. So on behalf of our committee, we want to welcome everybody today to our honoring of John Andrist for his many years of service to our community and to many community projects that he's been involved in. There's many, and I'm going to read them off later. This time I'd like to recognize John's family, and we have Steve, his son Steve, and his wife Barbara. Okay.
Are we supposed to stay
You can stay,
sure.
sure.
And this is Arthur.
That must be Bethany's and Levi's.
Hi, Bethany's
Arthur, okay. And then we have Steve's son, Levi. He's at the head table up here, and he's holding who? Who are you holding?
Theodore.
Theodore. And his beautiful wife, Bethany, right here. These two were in the Medora musical. Levi, what, 3 years? 4 years. Bethany, 2 years, okay. Okay, then we have our Lieutenant Governor, Drew Wrigley. And we have our Crosby Mayor, Bert Anderson. That'd be important because it's standing. And we have the North Dakota Majority Leader, Rich Wardner. And we have the North Dakota Representative, Stan Lease, or David Rust. All these guys came in late, I didn't know they're coming. Senator Stan Leeson, and Representative Gary Suka. And Gary and I go back many years as well. Now, anybody else? Bill Bowman, I'm sorry, Senator Bill Bowman. He's Majority Leader, right? Or you're down from Bowman. Bowman from Bowman. Thank you. Anybody else that's representing from the Senate, the representative here? If not, okay. All right, now let's get to John, who's worn many different hats over the years. Native son, born here in 1931, I think it was. Journalist, entrepreneur, public servant, philanthropist, and community builder. He's worn those hats really well, too, over the years. As John has served on many different boards and community projects, we have several speakers lined up today to talk about him. All be good words, I'm sure. So, at this time, I'm going to introduce each speaker, and if you'd come to the podium, I'll give you the mic, and you can say what you want to say about John. All good, John. Okay, it'll all be true. Our first speaker today is our Lieutenant Governor Drew Wrigley. I'm just going to give a little bio of Drew. He was sworn in as North Dakota 37th Lieutenant Governor on December 7th, 2010. He's a fourth generation North Dakotan. Did I hear right that your folks farm north of Columbus?
Northwest. Not, my dad grew up there.
You grew up there, okay. I knew I heard that
now
somewhere.
we hunt there.
You hunt there. That's good. With his family roots in Walsh County and Burke County, where Wrigley's brothers' farm still thrives. He was born in Bismarck and grew up in Fargo, where his family founded and continues to operate a mechanical, industrial, environmental contracting company. As Lieutenant Governor, Wrigley serves as President of the North Dakota Senate. He chairs the North Dakota State Investment Board. He leads the state's highly successful trade office and participates in a variety of boards and commissions as the governor's representative. Wrigley was elected to his first full term as Lieutenant Governor in 2012, I'm sorry. Wrigley, his wife Kathleen, and the 3 children live in Bismarck. Lieutenant Governor, Drew Wrigley.
I don't want John to see what's coming over there right away. Good to see everybody. I'm going to start with an apology. You never want to do that, but I'm going to do it now. We drove by the Senate Majority Leader and his lovely wife, Kayleen, when we were on the way here. And it was a security measure. We wanted to get to town first to make sure that everything was okay before the Majority Leader got here. So everything seemed like it was okay. And so if that doesn't work, well, my wife was driving, so. All right, that's not exactly true. What a pleasure to see everybody here. I laughed when I sat down by Senator Andrist, and he said, you know, you always kind of wonder, you don't really know, what do people think about you? And so, well, look around. It's pretty obvious, pretty evident what people think about John, and he's a great friend and a great man. I was sitting next to John at a funeral in the last year. It was Mrs. Guy's funeral. And we sat down, we were kind of chatting beforehand, and we got to talking about things and some of the comments we made, and John looked over at me and said, a good marriage is a good thing. He said it's an important thing. And of course, any of us who know John or who read all of his great writing over the years know how great and a blessing he had in his life and continues to have with Elaine. And I'm blessed. I told him that day in a similar fashion, but my lovely wife, Kathleen, absolutely the blessing of my life with our kids. So Kathleen's back here, dressed very subtly in pink today. And then our 3 kids, Quinn, Patrick, and Harper. And they're excited because we're going to the farm here afterward. We're going to shoot clay pigeons. How's that for a Sunday? That's pretty exciting. How they feel about you, John, it's a celebration. That's how we feel, because now John and I were just chatting a little bit up here, and you know, neither of us likes transitions a ton, I can tell that. And but at the same time, what an opportunity to celebrate, knowing that you've had just an extraordinary career in public service and in civic service to this great community and the broader community across North Dakota. And we're all richly blessed, John, not just by your friendship, but by your leadership and all of your hard work. As mentioned, Wrigley Brothers Farms continues to thrive a few miles from here. I'll be out there in a few weeks deer hunting, making sure I tell people all the time, our farm is right up against Canada. For 4 generations, we've been responsible for keeping peace with the warlike Canadian people. We've got relatives up there, so we can say that. But we're going to be up there deer hunting. And when I was named lieutenant governor a few years ago, it was right before deer season. And we're going to be coming up there. Well, we got up here hunting, and a big buck came by the first day we were near our land. And my dad, with his gratis tag, he thinks you just have to be near your land. Everything's changed since then, though. A big buck came by, and I had a doe tag. Didn't even raise my gun. My dad said, "What's wrong with you?" And I sort of looked at him, and he said, "Oh, I have it. Now you're the lieutenant governor, and you don't party hunt anymore." And I said, "Well, actually," I said, "now I'm the lieutenant governor, and none of us party hunts anymore." So he said, I ruined everything. Well, we're going to make his day, because I picked up the Crosby Journal today, and I've told John for years, that's my dad's still his favorite newspaper, the Crosby Journal. And so it's great to be back here. We'll look forward to a couple weeks. I wanted to say, too, about John Andrist, and it's fun to be talking with people who we all know him and love him so well, but boy, for me, the trifecta of people, I'll name my top 3, for just people that I respect and regard and feel so blessed to know throughout my years and at different stages. Certainly my father, who's grew up winters in Columbus, summers on the farm. They were very, very wealthy people, 2 homes. Right? No, you just get snowed in at the farm and you couldn't move around, so they would have a little house in town. But we still have that farm. My dad, the Chief Justice of North Dakota, who's an extraordinary public official from Noonan up to town here, and my kids just know him as the Chief, and they're constantly screaming at him because he's walking all over town, and there's the Chief, and he's always walking all over Bismarck, and they see him. And John Andrist, for my money, that is a triumvirate of extraordinary people and extraordinary examples. I recently was blessed to, it's been so much fun over the years, just talking about different things and running into each other. I came up here a summer or so ago, and I didn't remember the event, Senator, but you drove us out to the airport afterward, and we were going to fly back down to Bismarck. And it was about 3 years ago. And when I was getting ready to take off, we were talking, and John looked at me and said, "It's really fun, Drew, to get to know you better, and I'm really glad we've had these opportunities." And he had this look in his eye, which is really unknown to people in politics, because mostly people say stuff like that to you, and they're lying. They don't really care that they got to meet you. They are summing you up and trying to figure out what advantage they can take of it. But with John Andrist, you know the sincerity. And that's what fills a room like this, too. Complete sincerity in everything that he's saying and doing. And that's what gets all your colleagues to come out here on a Sunday. And that's what makes you such a beloved friend and public official, John. Thank you. And recently, we went to Williston, and it was really a fun day, and I was really looking forward to it in particular because John was going to fly up, and we were going to have a day to spend talking and celebrating the Housing Investment Fund, and just one of the projects that he's been so strong on leadership in our state, and it was really fun. And on the way back, they snapped a picture of us. We're so famous and powerful and important, we had the Attorney General of North Dakota snap this picture of you and me. That's pretty important. We're in the back of the plane there, and I just took the liberty of inscribing it from Drew to my dear friend, Senator John Andrist, with deep appreciation for your service to North Dakota and your friendship. So if I could give that to you with my applause. I bought 2 frames, and I got 2 copies of the picture. And I brought up a copy, and I meant to have a self-addressed stamped envelope, but I guess I owe you the cost of mailing it. So I would ask you, that when you have time, just sign it. I can give you the pen. So if you could sign that one for me and send it back, and we'll be like 2 school kids. We're kind of dating, and then I'll have that picture in my office, and we'll both have one, if you wouldn't mind doing that. Send it to the Capitol. All right, that'd be great. And one more thing I've got here. This year's North Dakota's 125th, and John is such a student of history, and I love his columns, and my kids know this. I'm constantly reading them excerpts from John's columns, which I just love, and they're my favorite part of our clips. We get them all the time. Just his insights about people and events, and the number of times that I've read those things and you get choked up. I remember one time sitting on the dock at the lake, and our oldest said, I was reading a segment to Kathleen. It was a beautiful tribute that John was talking about. I believe that was the time he was talking about riding the bicycle out to the cemetery to visit Elaine. And I was reading through it, and Quinn said, Dad, are you crying? I said, I just love John. You know, I'm reading through this whole thing. That was when she coined her famous quote. Dad, I've noticed you never cry. You only cry about things that are supposed to make you happy. I said, well, my friendship with John is something that makes me very happy, and you also make me cry all the time. So anyway, North Dakota's 125th this year, and the governor had these license plates made up, and then he has a stack of them, and then he signs them, and he makes people happy. So when he wasn't looking, I stole a couple of them, and so this is sort of a limited edition, because I mean anyone can have one signed by the governor.
Don't even get me past the patrolman.
It'll get you past the patrolman. And that's why I was speeding when I went past the workers, because I knew I had this plate. I almost had to give away your gift, but yeah, this one's signed by the Lieutenant Governor of the whole state of North Dakota. And I inscribed it, my dear friend, Senator John Andrist, for a life and work that continue to add incalculably to the spirit, to the civic virtue, and to the soul of our beloved North Dakota. With warmest personal regards, Drew Howard Wrigley, Lieutenant Governor. That's right. There. I know there's a lot of people to talk, but boy, what a privilege to be here today. And if I can say, just to represent the people of North Dakota, I'm here in that capacity, but I'm here really in friendship and as a guy who feels really lucky to have been mentored, continue to be mentored by a man like John Andrist. And you'll be moving to Fargo now, and my dad and I look forward to swinging by and grabbing some coffee with you. And you guys can trade great stories about how awesome you were growing up in Burke and Divide County. And I won't be any the wiser, but I'll look forward to that. John, thanks for always looking to the horizon. Thanks for everything you've done for the state. Presiding over the Senate the last couple sessions and just seeing the wisdom of years and experience and how that provides such an important overlay for the work of that body and the North Dakota legislature, and always doing it with a twinkle in your eye, fierce determination, but always a smile too and a warm heart. And so if I could, you know, good policy, a good body of work, has lasting value. It goes well beyond the time that any of us has in our offices. And so if I could also say on behalf of the people of North Dakota, thanks in advance for all the good, the work that you've done, will continue to do for all the years up ahead. John, what a great and lasting legacy you have. And just know this is a room full of people. You know why we're here? We're here because we love you. Congratulations and thanks, John.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Okay, now we're way behind. She has some great comments. Okay, our North Dakota Senate Majority Leader, Rich Wardner from Dickinson.
Well, thank you, and it's great to be here. This is a celebration, and I'm glad to be a part of this. And I won't take too long. I'm here to make a presentation. The Senate now has a little way of doing things. When people leave the Senate, we try to leave them with something that they can remember. It's a symbol of what I think is important about North Dakota. This is a statue of a bison. And the bison is one of the great animals that roam the plains. And we think that many of the people that have served in the North Dakota Senate are people that have done great things. The bison was the animal that provided support to the Native Americans in many different ways, food, many of the utensils and stuff. But I would just like to say this, John, you have provided a lot to the state of North Dakota. Not only to the state, but to this community. You were always there providing news to this community and across the state, but you've done so many other things in this community to keep things going. And I think this is a perfect symbol of what you have done and what legacy you have left to the people of North Dakota in your time in the Senate. So, John, I would like to present this to you at this time.
Thank you, Senator. We're back on track. Okay, so now we'll have the Crosby Mirror. Bert Anderson, please.
Thank you very much, Steve. He said, I want to just personally thank John. He said, I told this story a lot, and I guess I mentioned it to you the other day. I said, when I saw him out eating, I said, you know, I read in his article he had, he said, if you ever see a turtle on the top of a fence post, you know he had a lot of help getting there. And that's my feeling with John and what he's been able to do for me. He says, and I thank you for that, John. And on behalf of the city, I want to thank you for your commitment to our community, to the region, he says, and to the entire state. And in closing, this is going to be a short one, he said, Henry Ford once said, he said, if you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. And I'm glad, John, that you thought you could, and you did. And we are all blessed because of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, now we have, next is a very close friend of John's, and it's Joyce Eckness. And her late husband, Dell, and John were involved in many projects. I think John said like 16 of them, none of them worked out. He said the first one is the motel out here. But Joyce is going to say a few words. Thank you, Joyce.
I hope not. John and my husband Dell became good friends soon after Dell came to Crosby in the early, or the late 50s to open, or I guess it was reopen, the city locker. And I suppose they needed to get some advertising, so of course went to the journal. Steve was the one that thought that they were the ones that got the business builders going. I don't know all these facts myself, which of course is now the chamber. But they, and I'm sure many others too, spent a lot of hours dreaming up ways to promote business in Crosby and then to have some fun, as if you know John. Some of you must, must remember some of the Crazy Days promotions where everybody dressed up, and even had a contest one time for the customers to come in and dress up. And then there was the Ludafest that they promoted. And if any youth that were here know about the Ludafest, it first started in just the stores. There was one Scandinavian food in each of the businesses. And then, of course, it got bigger and went to the elementary school with just an hour of entertainment at the end, and finally into the high school with many booths and more entertainment. Sometimes, though, their plans were a bit far out and crazy. One especially that must have been around Thanksgiving time, as turkeys were involved, live ones. I think they thought turkeys could fly, so they took some up into the courthouse and threw them out the window. Off the top? Oh. think the idea was for people to catch them, is that right?
Yeah, one of them got as far as that monument.
I think the others just hit the ground. But they had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs over the years with business builders, and also with pulling pranks on their friends as the committee. A former penny manager was afraid of getting fired after he received a letter from the committee, but they signed it as from his boss. A pastor received a surprise, shocking letter in the pulpit one Sunday when he got up to preach. And even though Mike Stefanowitz, who's here, was a member of the committee, his wife, Jo, received a letter after she returned to Crosby from a visit to her hometown. And the letter was thanking her for letting Mike have this great party at their house. And I'm sure telling all about the wonderful fun everyone had. Of course, that was to get Mike in trouble, right? But that committee didn't let John get by without a prank on him. It was John's 40th birthday. And the former sheriff, Jim Lovedahl, was talked into going in the patrol car to John's house and arresting him. I don't remember what the charge was or anything, but he was taken to the courthouse or the jail where the sheriff lived, I don't know what it is, and like to have a trial. And they had talked Doc Stewart into being the judge. They had him dressed in a choir gown. I think by that time John probably guessed what was going on. And another crazy thing that John thought of was after a New Year's Eve supper at Elaine and John's, that we should all go marching through the Moose Club singing, "Bringing in the Sheaves." John and his family were active members of the Presbyterian Church, and I can always remember John and Dell and Charlie and Newman Powers and many of the business community always showing up for pie and coffee at 3 o'clock to support our annual bazaar. John has always been such a caring, kind, fair person who never really holds grudges that I know of and never gets angry, usually. Only once I can remember him losing his temper, and it was in church and at a congregational meeting. We were without a pastor, and an interim pastor was there and some other higher up guy. And I suppose they were trying to tell us just what we were to do, that it must have rubbed John wrong. And he lost his temper there, but I think those people deserved his anger. Many other things were done in fun, but with Dell being gone and then Elaine and others moving away, it's been a long time since we've been able to get together and talk about these things. John, I thank you for all you've done for the community over these many years and for your friendship. We'll miss you and wish you well in your new phase of your life. Come back and visit.
Thank you, Joyce. I remember the turkey drop. I wasn't very old, but my brother graduated in 1960, so it had to be, he's probably on junior, senior. He was pretty fast. He actually caught one of the turkeys. And his went out to the U-turn. So it did go quite a ways. But I can't imagine today nobody could do that. Some organization would be after you, I know that for sure. Okay, thanks again, Joyce. Next is Divide County Economic Development Council President, Sandra Samuelson. And back in 2004, I'm going to just give you a little history now, but I'll tell more about it later. John repurchased the Penny Building, the ZC Penny Building, from Burke Divide, who had repossessed it from the foundation, St. Louis Community Foundation. He bought it for $185,000. He gave it to the Divide County Economic Development Council, and we sold it to them, to Jim and Sandy Simons. Where you at, Senator? There you are. Come on up. Did that talk of your speech? Senator Simons, President, Divide County EDC.
Hi, my name is Sandra Simonson, and I'm president of the Divide County Economic Development Council, otherwise known as the EDC. While the EDC tries to bring in new businesses to the Divide County area, we also try to enhance or tap into what we already have. There have been many good projects worked on by the EDC, but the one that probably comes to my mind is the Penny Building located in downtown Crosby. The old Penny Building was on the verge of being demolished, and John was one of many that was part of a committee to save and restore that building. They restored it to 9 apartments upstairs, along with office space located in the basement and on the main floor of the building, which currently holds my business, Divide Brick Abstract Company. While writing this speech, I was trying to remember one of the first times that I had ever met John, and I come to the conclusion I never met you. What I did recall is seeing John, or the crazy man on the bicycle, driving all over the road. You guys know how John drives. He drives like he does not have a care in the world. And he goes from one side to the other, turns around in the middle of the street, and comes back again. I guess being a politician, John probably thought, you know what, I pay my taxes, I paid for both sides of the road, I'm going to use both sides. I would like to take this time and thank John for all the years of service he has given to this community. Divide County has been blessed many times over by the contributions of John Andrist. It is very rare to find someone as generous and as giving as he is, and I consider it my privilege to be able to call this man my friend. John, today people came near and far to enjoy this day with you. With how busy people are these days, I would like to thank everybody for coming today, especially our guest speaker and our honored guest, John. I would like to give the head table a little Hershey's kiss. Take that kiss, stick it in your pocket, and on the drive home today, eat it, and remember again this wonderful man that we all came to celebrate. Just a minute, I'm not done.
The nuggets are bigger.
I don't have any left.
That's what I wanted to be empty when I left here.
This will have to do.
Thank you, Sandra. I think that was planned. When he used to ride his bike, as she said, John told me he did that. He got a lot more miles out of his riding now. And for you people at the head table, do not put this in your pocket and go home. It will be melted. Eat it first. Okay, thanks again, Sandra. Okay, next is Northwest Wellness and the Health and Wellness Center, and Gerald Brady will speak. John's been one of the driving forces behind this building. If you came in from the outside, the people out of town, it's that huge building out by our Guardian Inn. And John gifted $250,000 in 2013. Gerald?
Thank you, Steve. I'm here representing the Blue Line Club. Here about 4 or 5 years ago, we were at a point in our facility that we needed to either quit or build. And quite frankly, we were floundering and didn't know how to move forward. John came to a meeting. Not only did he put up $250,000, more importantly, he inspired a lot of us to give what we could give, both in money and time and effort. And that meeting at the Moose of about a dozen people or so, we actually went from planning to moving forward. And that speech John gave us that day made the difference. But without John's help, we would have never got off the ground. He got us thinking about what the old arena had done for the community. And I can honestly say I have not run into a single person in our community that thought Crosby or our area would have been better off without the old arena. So we moved forward, took a lot of risk, and we have a beautiful facility out on the highway that I don't think there's a community in North Dakota can say of our size that has anything even close. And a lot of that comes from John. You know, getting to that point took a lot of meetings, a lot of planning, and at one of our meetings and planning sessions, John was there, and in the discussion, John finally said, you know, I could give a rat about hockey. And I sat there thinking, you know, why would he give $250,000 to something he doesn't care about? And it took me a few meetings later to figure it out. What John cared about was people, our youth, families, community, and hockey was just a means to enhance them. So he was right, hockey is not the focus, it's community. And it took the rest of us a while to figure that out. The day we opened that facility was a very emotional day for me. I spent a lot of time there, along with a lot of other people. And I can honestly say that John was the first thing that came to my mind. So, thank you, John. Well, maybe about a year ago, John was at the facility. We were visiting, I believe it was at the facility, and he said, you know, you cost me $250,000. And he said it very seriously. I thought, oh. And then with a smile, he said, I didn't think you guys could pull it off. But, anyways, I know John does not like recognition for that. He's told me that, and I believe that, and I think everybody knows that. He's not seeking recognition. He gives because he enjoys giving, but what he even enjoys more is when he can inspire the rest of us to give. And he did that for us. So on behalf of the Blue Line Club, I would like to thank John for what he did for us. And because I didn't want to bring all the letters, he didn't want this, but it will be up on the west wall in the main arena of our facility. A for A plus F for John, A for Andrist, and A for Arena. It will henceforth be known as Andrist Arena, hopefully for the next 100 years. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. That's pretty awesome. And, thanks, Gerald. And he has been a driving force, and there's future gifts in the future, too. So, all right, next we have our Meadowlarks Arts Council President, Holly Anderson. And John just recently gifted $197,513 to the Meadowlarks Arts Council in memory of his wife, Elaine. And this Arts Council also owns a Dakota Theater. So that's one of the projects. They do some things they bring to town. This, I'm sure Holly's going to tell you about that. Holly?
This is John's column, which ran last. It's got a title. It's got a picture of John. It's got a name of the column, John A. Dreams. It's got the author by John M. Andrist. Some people look at this column and think, oh, I wonder what he wrote this week. I look at this column and think, what does the M stand for? So I'll tell you what the M stands for. M stands for magnanimous, generous in forgiving an insult or injury, free from petty resentfulness or vindictiveness. M stands for munificent, extremely liberal in giving, very generous. M stands for mushy, emotional or sentimental. M stands for modest, having or showing a moderate or humble estimate of one's merits, importance, free from vanity, egotism, boastfulness, free from ostentation or showy extravagance. M stands for mild, amiable, gentle, intemperate in feeling or behavior toward others, characterized by or showing such gentleness or manners or speech. M stands for mad, excessively or uncontrollably fond and infatuated with football and baseball. M stands for Meadowlarks Arts Council. It's because of John's munificence that our Arts Council can continue to bring in high-quality entertainment that will help us grow as people. Just this week, a lady from the Stanley Arts Council contacted me, and we will hopefully be able to form a co-op of arts councils so the Elaine Andrist Performance Fund will be able to stretch even farther. M stands for my friend. I was running out of M words. I have been the recipient of these M words personally and professionally. And I know I haven't said anything that hasn't already been said. So the Meadowlarks Arts Council thanks you, John, and I thank you again. I am so grateful that your mother named you John Melvin Andrist. And I am very grateful that I got to know you, and I look forward to our continued friendship. God bless, and I love you.
Very good, Holly. Lots of M's there. It's a great organization, and I own the theater. For the people that don't know it, I owned it for 22 years, from 1978 to 2000. Basically gave it to the Meadowlarks Council to continue the theater on. They've done a great job. Magnificent job, actually, another M. They got grants, and they fixed it up, and it's doing very well now. I'm pleased with that, too. Thank you for being the president of the organization. Okay, tree board's next. Unfortunately, Keith Brown and Don Anderson could not be here, so I'm going to say a few things about the tree board. John has had a passion for trees all his life, particularly for the trees of Crosby. He's implemented, or helped implement, a program to save hundreds of our Dutch elms from the disease here in Crosby. So I know how many years he's been on that board, John? How many? Whenever we started. That's but anyway, I know it's been a real passion of his, so I just wanted to bring that up, and unfortunately they couldn't be here. So, okay, next, our journal owner and editor, Cecile Werman, and Krim, sorry about that. Actually, I sent her an email and had that in there too. Sorry about that. In 1958, John's dad sold it to John. And John sold it to his son Steve in 1991. In 2012, Steve sold it to Cecile. So now she's going to tell you about business. Cecile,
Thank you, Steve. Well, those of you who read my column this week know that I've already gotten all of the sentimental stuff out of my system, I thought. But hearing all of these wonderful tributes to John, I'm already weepy and I haven't even started. So, but today what I'd like to do is try to focus on telling you a bit about John's newspaper career. If I said that John is my newspaper hero, you'd probably think I was exaggerating, but the definition fits. A hero is a man of distinguished courage or ability, admired for his brave deeds and noble qualities. A second definition says a hero is a person who, in the opinion of others, has heroic qualities or has performed a heroic act and is regarded as a model or as an ideal. Both of these definitions fit when it comes to John's newspaper career. He began as a printer's devil. Don't you just love that term? And it suits him so well. A printer's devil was basically an apprentice in a print shop. You know, the guy they gave all the dirty jobs to. At the Journal in John's era, that would have included pouring lead, setting type, and dealing with ink by the barrel. He went to school to learn to become a linotype operator, which was a contraption that automated, at least to a point, the way type was set on pages prior to printing. It must have been about as complicated in its time as what you or I would find the art of 3D printing. Soon after coming on staff as a young married man at the Journal, what's one of the first things you would suppose this whippersnapper would do? He talked the old man into buying a newfangled contraption. It was a Heidelberg printer, and it was for use not in printing the paper, but for expanding the paper's ability to do commercial printing. Would you be surprised to learn that that machine still works today, some 60 years later? Is it more than that? And it's still making money for the business. So that was a pretty good decision for a whippersnapper, I'd say. John made a lot of good decisions like that over the years. He kept up with technology, and that cost money. While other small-town newspapers let technology slide and maybe got behind, John kept the Journal up with the times. Just think of that, to go from lead type that you had to melt and pour to computers. That's quite a journey. For much of the time John's children were growing up, he's told me, he wasn't around all that much, and I can understand why. He was often the reporter, the photographer, the salesman, and the layout designer, all at the same time. He knew how to develop the photos he shot and how to shoot the film that became the negatives, that became the plates, that printed the papers. He joined with other newspaper owners in the 1970s to form a regional printing company in Minot where they could pool their resources to print more efficiently. That decision alone played a huge role in keeping the Journal a viable and profitable enterprise. John kept the business current along with the current events, moving the paper into a more modern editorial style, espousing journalistic standards of objectivity. He ran this small-town newspaper in a way that didn't smack of small-town ideas. Maybe that's why, even after decades away, so many people who grew up here and left 50 or 60 years ago still subscribe to the Journal today. And John wasn't just a leader in his home community, though. He followed his father, getting involved in the North Dakota Newspaper Association and served a term as president. Then he rose into the leadership of the National Newspaper Association, and he remains the only North Dakotan to have ever been president of the NNA. He's won the highest accolades from both of those organizations, the first living inductee into the North Dakota Newspaper Hall of Fame, and a recipient of the National Newspaper Association's Amos Award for outstanding contributions in the newspaper industry and its association. And if all of that is not a model to follow, if that's not distinguished ability, I don't know what is. Noble? What's more noble than running a business that aspires to uphold democracy with the truth? Courage? It takes more than a little to be the guy who signs his name to a newspaper story. You are not going to make all of the people happy all of the time. And lots of times, people do take things personally. Yet John never did. I know because I've disagreed with him plenty of times, and we're still friends. John learned early that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. I know it pained him more for the other guy if they couldn't let go of some perceived slight. They were hurting themselves more by carrying a grudge than they could ever hurt him. So yes, John is my newspaper hero. I'll never be just like him. Couldn't possibly do all the things that he's done, but he's provided a heck of an ideal to aspire to. And isn't that what heroes do? Inspire us? Just as they never let us down, we don't ever want to let them down. How lucky am I that I get to follow this great man, this great family, into a business that has been John's heart and soul for his entire life. All I can do is love the work like he did, keep moving forward with the times, and keep up to the standards he set. Make sure the Journal can continue to hold mayors and city councils and sheriffs and county commissioners accountable, reflecting back to the community what it is, where it is going, and what you all, the people, think about what's happening around you. When I took over the Journal, the staff gave me a bracelet with the letters WWSD. What would Steve do? It was patterned after that campaign that you might remember, WWJD, what would Jesus do? The idea being that all I would have to do is look at that bracelet and know in times of uncertainty how Steve would have handled things. Well, when it comes to figuring out what John would do, those reminders are all around. At the Journal office, where he's continued to work nearly every day of his so-called retirement, on the streets filled with trees he either planted or helped save in Crosby, at the football field dedicated in his father's name, here at the hospital, the nursing home, the villa, and countless other projects John helped to bring into creation. Everywhere I look, there are reminders of what John would do, what he did. So I'll close by saying, thanks, John, for not only being my newspaper hero, but for being such a model of community spirit. Most of all, for the honor of stewarding the Journal. I don't ever want to let you down.
Thank you, Cecile, for getting half through the tears. I'm looking around, there's a lot of tears out there. That was very nice. Okay, next we're going to have grandson Levi Andrist. He's going to say some remarks for the family. Up. Thank you, Levi.
Hey, Teddy. We like microphones at our house. So glad to see all of you here today. Before I get into the stuff I was planning on talking about, there's a few things I have to say. First, it is so fun to see Steve Jornstedt just a little nervous. I grew up managing the theater, and I can tell you, I was more nervous when he would come in on an unannounced Friday night because I left some popcorn kernels on the ground. So I'm getting some great enjoyment out of the little perspiration up here. Thank you, Steve. I'm also I got to get a lot of these because memories are flooding my way. As Joyce got up, my mind went to learning golf in the Crosby Country Club with Gramps, and me sitting over a 2-foot putt, straight. There's not a chance you could miss that unless you're cross-eyed. And he'd say the classic Dell statement, "Boy, you'd sure be ashamed to miss that easy one." So, Dell, Drew, I would love to see you shoot clay pigeons in that suit.
We're changing.
Okay. Get a pad over there. And then you think, as a 29-year-old guy, you think, really? There are tree boards out there? And yeah, there are. It's delightful. I remember spending a summer cutting trees, and I've got a chipped tooth to still show for it. So, wow. Well, on behalf of the family, thanks so much for spending some time with us and sharing these awesome memories. I'm so glad Stephen's recording this so we can ship it off to all of our relatives. If you'll indulge me, just to go down real quick, John's 5 kids, Pam the oldest, and Fargo and her family, Steve, the second oldest, although he definitely looks the youngest, now from Bismarck in my family. My Uncle Stan and Jan, they're in Fargo. My Aunt Paula in the Twin Cities, and her husband Andrew and their family, and then my Aunt Penny and her partner in Fargo. Along with the 11 grandkids and the 8 grandkids. I'm not a good mathematician, but that's 24 direct descendants that your legacy will live on. So tomorrow probably will be the first time in 93 years since 1921 that we won't have an Andrist in this community. And that's a little melancholy, but I think what you'll see are a few things. Steve is going to give you a really impressive list of all the physical legacy things that you'll see. You've heard about a couple of them today, about Cal Andrist Field, about the new Andrist Arena, about the Leela Andrist room at Divide County Elementary School, about the Elaine Andrist Performing Arts Fund. What I'd just like to kind of tie in a little bit are there's character, the legacy of character that he's kind of passing down to us that has certainly shaped us now and will continue to shape us. The first qualities that will come to mind is a deep commitment and a fierce loyalty to the family, to the community, to his neighbors, as well as to the state. The way I'd like to take you through this, though, is to kind of trace it to how his values have kind of, have mirrored and encouraged me in my life, and to tie in a couple of stories. One of the first things, and I think, and it's really interesting to hear all these people talk about all the qualities, because we all have a little different take, but we all know exactly what they're talking about. And one is listening. He's a great listener. The first time that I remember hearing him being a good listener was when I struck I had curiosity struck my bone, or whatever that saying is, sorry, a curiosity bone, something like that. Right? Curiosity struck the something? No. Move on. Okay. But Grandpa served on the board of directors for Prairie Public, and I was a freshman in college, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. I'm going to tag along for a day. And I can just remember him sitting in that boardroom with all these impressive people, and he just wanted to soak it up, and he wanted to listen, and he wanted to digest. Certainly all the colleagues in the political sphere and in the journalism world will say he's just a great listener. My wife can tell you that I try every day to be a better listener. I've still got plenty of ways to go, but we have a great model in a listener. The other one is curiosity. Think about how much curiosity is in that man's ethos. I mean, he hates hockey and he gives $250,000 to a hockey rink. You have to be curious to get your mind around that. The only guy I really know that reads the Wall Street Journal from start to finish most days. That takes a lot of curiosity. And I think you'll see in a lot of his descendants that we all have this, it may be small, it may be big, but we all just have a degree of curiosity that we want to be interested in learning something new. The other thing, which I'm definitely guilty of, is this entrepreneurial thing. You've heard about him owning his own business, his investing in various projects, his social entrepreneurship through his philanthropy, and really his insatiable appetite for risk. I mean, think about how much risk he's taken on. It's just like it's no big thing, and he's a happy warrior. But I think that's one thing we all have to appreciate is think about the risk that he goes through. But it's not really risk to him. It's just a way of thinking. My personal experience with risk is actually when I was working at the Dakota Theater, I think for $4.65 an hour. Thanks for nothing, Steve. And I saved a lot of that money. My parents, Grandpa John was always save, 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 because you'll need it someday, and you've got all you need now, so save it up. So I did. So I hit, I think, the $2,000 threshold in my savings account, and I thought, okay, I'm getting a little too much cash on hand here. I got to figure out something interesting to do with this money. So I approached Gramps and said, I'm just open. I'd like to do something with this money that's not in a savings account. And so he says, okay, I got a deal for you. I do e-trading on Charles Schwab. So I'm essentially your best stockbroker. And he says, if you put in $1,000, I'll put in $1,000. I'll teach you my philosophy of investing. We'll read through the whatever you call them, all the disclosures and the prospectus, yeah, thank you. And so we went through this, and we did all, we looked through energy stocks, we looked through utilities, we looked through healthcare, and after diligent research, he found, not me, he found, with my review, one of the best looking stocks in 2001. And it was this great company named Enron. Boy, the foresight of that man. So, still to this day in my Amazon account, I get like 0.0003 as the value of the Enron stock. Ah, wonderful. Another quality that you're hearing as a continual thread is independence. He just thinks independently of other people. It doesn't matter about your bias or your background or your location or what your interests are, really. He really forges his own path. I'd encourage you, for those of you who haven't seen it, to borrow or to buy Grandpa's book with all the columns. It was just fascinating to see the transition of his brain and his thoughts. I remember reading about some columns, I think in the 60s, about the civil rights movement. This guy was in rural western North Dakota talking about the necessity for the civil rights movement. I mean, I tend to think of Crosby as a progressive community, but that's a pretty amazing thing from a historical standpoint. Another quality is quiet, but what I call quiet but present faithfulness. He doesn't wear his religion on his sleeve because that's not who he is. He wears it in his actions to every day. Actions speak louder than words. The other and kind of last one I wanted to tie up, because I know Steve's been pulling at my leg here for about 3 minutes, is healthful living. Healthful living. Many of you know he's been jogging for upwards of 50 to 60 years. He jogged the day before he had his stroke. Sandra, there are some explanations for the weaving. And I don't have explanations for the bicycle riding as Steve did, but I do for the jogging. So for those of you who are up in the morning, usually early, sometimes before the sun rises, oftentimes before the sun rises in the winter, you'll see him with his dead arm, the one arm going to the end of, and then if you'll get to the end of the block, you might sometimes see him kind of do one of these. And there's a reason for that. And I don't know if many of you know this, but he's an obsessive compulsive counter when he jogs. Which is just, it's awesome. I don't know what the number was anymore, but I think it's like 777 left steps is his mile in his traditional stride. So if you see him walking in a circle, it's usually because he's trying to end a mile on a round number. I wish I had the stats here and I didn't want to ask him beforehand, but I'm pretty sure he's also, because of his OCD, he's calculated the miles, the cumulative miles he's run over 50 years. And I don't remember what it was, but once he told me it was like 2.5 times around the equator. So, I mean, what an incredible 3. Okay. Yeah. Right back to the modesty Joyce was talking about. So but the thing is, it's not just exercise. It's just a way of life. It's a way of feeling good. The man hasn't met a vegetable he doesn't love. And I'm trying to get Teddy and Arthur to sit and eat with him more regularly so they see that. But it's one thing that our family really cherishes, and that will certainly be present in us. Oftentimes the thought, and especially with my brothers, is if we're getting up early in the morning to get a workout in, and we need a little extra motivation, we would just think, geez, our 80-year-old grandpa's up for a jog. I could get my butt out of bed. So those are some of the small things that, definitely are impactful for us. In 6th grade, for all of his grandkids, he would always buy every grandkid a bicycle. Small little gestures that stick with you your entire life. I just want to share one last story in closing that it kind of brings this thing full circle. And that is, it ties into healthfulness, it ties into kind of completing the circle. Every year, from 5th grade, I think until 12th grade, except for my senior year, Gramps and I would take an annual summer bicycle trip. A one-day trip. We would go, I was just writing down, the first trip was to Columbus and back, 25 miles and back. I'm a 5th grader, 10-speed bike. I'm trying to, you know, and I can remember getting out to Columbus. We had lunch at the cafe he bought, and then we got back to the Wisprod farm on the south side of the road, on the south side of the highway, and I was tired and I was ready to give up. I don't remember how many miles Wisprods is out, but maybe like 10 miles or something. 6, Stephen knows. So we were 6 miles from home on about a 50-mile trip, and I'm a 5th grader, I'm just thinking, Gramps, I can't do this. So we're sitting in the shade next to the Quonset, just getting some rest, sucking on some Powerade, and he just started giving me this motivational, just, you know, it's okay, we can do it. You know, we'll just take it half a mile at a time. We'll stop it, how about this? Let's stop at each section line road on the way over. And you want to talk about motivation, like Gerald spoke about, you know, it's that constant encouragement. We would, for the first while, we would stop at every section line, and he'd get us there. Subsequent years took us to Estevan, Torquay, Kenmare, Tioga. Tioga was a memorable one because as we got out to the McGregor Dam, we were traveling with the really huge old bag cell phones, if you remember those. And we had it, you know, just for safety reasons. And he got this great idea. We stopped over the dam. Levi, wouldn't it be a great idea, caution, wouldn't it be a great idea to call Grandma Elaine and tell her, you could call her, and tell her that I got hit by something. And then of course he gave me the punchline after that. You'll have to wait for that. So I give Graham a call at the top of the McGregor Dam. For those of you who've been there, I think we got 1 or 2 bars of reception, and I give Graham Elaine a call. And you know, for those of you who ever talked with Graham on the phone, it's the most beautiful phone voice. Hello, you know, it's melodic, beautiful lyric voice, and hello, and nervous, probably 10th grader at that time. Grandma, it's Levi. You wouldn't believe it. We're at the McGregor Dam, and Grandpa got hit by a semi. Silence. And, you know, I kind of let it sit in for a minute, and then Grandpa kind of gave me one of these. And that's when the punchline came in, which was, and you should see the damage he did to that semi. So, the last trip we took was to Williston, and it was my junior, senior year. That's a 70-mile trip. That is that's a lot of uphill on the way there. And I can remember, coincidentally enough, about 6 or 8 miles out of Williston, that big incline coming up to Williston, Grandpa saying, what would have he been at that time? 70, just about 70, I think. And he was just saying, Levi, I don't think I can do this. I need a break. So we stopped over on the side of the road at a farmstead, and it was this kind of magical switching of roles, where I was kind of saying, Gramps, you can do it. Let's just take it a mile at a time, and we'll just get there together. And we did. So for our whole life, we've been best buddies. We've been encouraging ourselves. I'm so glad you all took the afternoon to share these really delightful memories. We've got so many more of them. We love them to death. We know you do too. Thanks so much, and we love you.
Thanks, Levi. Some great stories there. We're way behind now. There were some good stories. I even heard some of those. You guys are real bikers. I know John was, because he'd go around by my house with that arm. Was it this one, John?
Elaine said it was right.
Right one? I can't remember. But he'd come by. Seriously.
Throw that arm there.
He was good at it. Yeah, I'm sure he misses it too. But some great stories, Levi. I appreciate those. And it wasn't $4.65 an hour, it was $4.75. I haven't got a clue what it was, to be honest with you. Okay, Theodore Roosevelt Foundation. Randy Hudsonbuehler is the president. And John just recently gave a gift of $250,000 for a total of $355,000 he's given to that foundation in honor of Elaine and his family. Randy Hudsonbuehler.
Thank you. That's not a lot of fun to follow Levi. Nice job, Levi. John, my wife Lori says hello. I had no idea what this was going to be, but I have to tell you this. Is it Cecile? in our household, she tells everybody I cry at Charmin commercials. Remember those? So this has been rough. This has been tough, but I'll be very brief. You know, all the comments and all the stories, if you're not from Crosby, and if you're from Medora, I thought we had a license on John. And I didn't know all of this, John, that you have this impact wherever you go. Crosby is your home, but you have a much broader community. And I thought that Medora was it. And you know, there's been gifts given to you. I want you to know that I'm positive from everything I've heard today, you're welcome back in Crosby forever. You are also welcome in Medora forever. There is a room anytime you want to come to Medora and enjoy the Elaine Andrist Wind Gardens. If some of you have not been there, John and his family have transformed Medora. They've taken one of the areas of town that was probably the least attractive and now is the most attractive. And these wind sculptures that mean so much to their family have mesmerized thousands of people over the last couple of summers. And I don't know how to say thank you. It's just wonderful what you've done. I tried to remember how it was that you came to the board of directors, and I remember working at the legislature and really admiring you. Someone referred you. You have been one of the best friends of Medora and of the board. I've learned so much from you, just as everyone else has spoken. There's just this incredible, encouraging spirit. The part that I really didn't know, though, is this sense of humor and this desire to have practical jokes all the time, it seems like. And I'll just share one. We were traveling together a couple of years ago on a cruise, and we all know what an incredible relationship John and Elaine had, and still have. You can see it in the writings. But we were on this cruise, and John Andrist, I wasn't personally there, so I'm just repeating what I've been told. John Andrist and Shyla Schaefer and Clay Jenkinson were walking along a sandy beach. And John was kind of saying to Shyla that, you know, you're getting too chummy with Clay. I'm more your age. And I think at one point he got down on one knee and pretended to propose to her. And John and Clay didn't have shoes on, as I understand it. And Shyla observed, those are the ugliest toes I have ever seen. Have you ever had a pedicure? And apparently neither of them had. So she arranged to have both of them have a pedicure on the ship. And if you've been on a cruise, there's almost always a night where it's formal night. Everyone's in tuxes or suits. And it was that night, everybody's kind of having a nice, quiet dinner. And all of a sudden, the place erupts. And you look over, and there's Senator John Andrist putting his bare foot up on the formal dining table, showing off his pink toes. And he wants you to know that Clay did it as well, but he was following you. I'm going to wrap real quickly. You all read this a while ago. If you were at our board meetings in Medora, you would understand why just 2 days ago I interrupted John and said, I don't know why we don't remember to do this, what you're doing right now. We should have a camera running when John speaks. It usually says, we human creatures are strange. And then he tells us something that everybody should listen to. And one of your recent articles kind of summed it. It's the things we are able to do for others which really make our lives rewarding. The toys wear out and vanish. John, you're going to hear it 5 more ways that you just have done an amazing job inspiring all of us, and I love you.
Thank you, Randy. If you're in Medora, the Hoffman House, go behind there, that's the Elaine's garden too. It's very nice. So if you're down in Medora, that's where it's at, right behind the Hoffman House. Thanks again, Randy. I know John has a really fondness for the foundation, so one of his, obviously, $355,000. Okay, next is our St. Luke's Hospital Administrator, Les Irvin. John served on the board as board member, president, for about 28 years, and he actually chaired the 1964 building of the hospital. So here's Les with his remarks.
John's had a lot of passions, as you've heard, but healthcare has probably been one of the highest ones. 28 years he served on the hospital board,
He served another 23 years, or is still on the board for the foundation. He's guided them in investments. They're better than yours, Levi. He's done a good stewardship job for the foundation. He also served on the Nursing Home Advisory Board with Good Sam of 6 years. And he's been on the tax district, Northwest Tax District Board, that's provided money for St. Luke's Hospital's building capital for 21 years, since '93, since the inception of that. So he's been a lot of time in healthcare meetings. When I came here in '91, Forsgren used the back out here for horse pasture. And the only other thing was the old hospital was here, and the only group that was in it was the foundation. Since that time, we've changed a lot of things and improved a lot of things here. John is helped by being on the tax district and being on the foundation board immensely. I don't know what it was like. He must have joined in the '60s when the sisters were still here. Did they still milk then? One of the things that when I looked through this, and I read through the old board minutes when I first came here, and John was in there. He spoke his mind and what was going on, so I had an idea of who the players were on the board. I don't know if it was Kenny or Joyce that was the biggest hoarder, but one of the things I found, we all complain about Medicare, of what they pay us and stuff like that. Well, I found a letter from John and Wes writing to Medicare on how poorly they paid rural hospitals. So he just didn't say, well, that darn Medicare doesn't pay us enough. He took the time to write to them and say, why don't you do a better job in doing that? And I really admire John for doing that, because many people won't do that. They don't want their name out there. He took the time to do that. So he's been especially generous in finishing off projects for us, like the assisted living, the second group that we did. And it's really liked, and we've got 20-some people on the list for that still. He helped finish off our therapy pool, kind of thing. And so when things are stalled, John comes to kind of the rescue. So it's been a long time that we've worked together, and even in the Penny building and forward, and the doctor's house and those kind of things, John's always been a supporter of a lot of those things, especially the doctor's house and the assisted living group. So thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Les. Okay, I'm up next. I was a former board member of the St. Luke's Hospital, starting in 1979. We came back to Crosby in 1977. One of the first things, or wasn't one of the first things, but I became friends with John, and we've been lifelong friends since. He got me on the board in 1979, replacing Paul Ingwolson. So I served 5 years as his board member, and then 3 years as his president. So John and I are kind of tied to the hip, because back in 1985, in late '85, John came with the idea we should start a St. Luke's Community Foundation. So in May of 1986, I became its executive director. So I resigned from the hospital board, and I did that position for 15 years, resigning in October of 2000. So John has got me involved in many things, both the hospital board, St. Luke's Community Foundation board. So I have a real fondness for John, but I'm trying to get out of the boards now. John was a charter member of the foundation board, served on it, and he's still serving on it for 29 years. Over the years, he's been a major contributor to the foundation. I'm just going to give you one figure, but it's nothing compared to what I'm going to add up later. He's given over $51,598 in cash and stock gifts to the foundation. There's many more, and I'm going to go into that later. In 1999, the J.C. Penney building, as Sandra alluded to, was going to be demolished, and John had a real fondness for that building. He led the effort to save it. He put into that building $347,000. Then he rebought it back after we lost it, because the leading agency was Burke Divide REC, and so they took it back because we couldn't make a go of it. And John came up in 2004, put another $185,000 into it. bought it back, and then we sold it, EDC sold it to Sandra and Jim Simonson in 2010, I believe it was. So he spent a lot of money in that building. It was $1 million project. I worked on it a whole year. But we saved a historic building in town. And that was going to the wrecking ball, and it had been left vacant for many years. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for the foundation. It went back, we got it back, and now it's a great building for Sandra and her business. So when you look at that money, that means John's put into that building $533,000. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. While serving on the foundation board, as he still does, he saw the need in 2007 for assisted living. And that's what the J.C. Penney building was trying to do, was independent living. Didn't work out. But 2007, John led the foundation in efforts to build 8 units connected to the hospital for assisted living. He put into that $151,000. Today's successful, waiting list. So in 2010, we knew we had to build onto it. We had so many people waiting. Another 8 units. He put another $150,000 into that unit. So he's put quite a bit of money in that. Those 16 units. And it's called the Northern Lights Villa. It's awesome. If you've never seen it, you should go visit it sometime. It's great. We still have a waiting list. I'm not sure. Carla, how many people on the waiting list now? 20 people on the waiting list for 16 units. So anyway, it's filled up. It's done great. And John also gave $13,500 to build a gazebo in a garden in the courtyard of the villas in memory of Elaine. In our 2010 $7.5 million remodeling renovation of this building, John gave $10,000, and then he has less lived too. He also gave $25,000 for the therapy pool. We needed that therapy pool, and we just didn't have any money. So John came up with the last $25,000, and it's used every day. It's a great thing for people that need to be water therapy. Great thing for John again. This time I'm going to recap you how generous John has been, and these gifts only go from 2001. I'm going to give the foundation first. Endowment, $51,598. Main Street Manor, $330,000 and some change. Northern Lights Villa, $314,000 and some change. Campaign to the hospital, $10,000. Therapy pool, $25,000. Total of $748,135 to the foundation, just the foundation. Okay, here's what he's given since 2001. And I'm going to allude to something as I get into this, why I'm getting into this, how I think it's important to know these facts. 2001, Main Street, Manor. I'm going to reiterate some of the things, but again, bear with me. And the Burke Divide, $533,000. 2002, Concordia Window Fund, $1,430. Good Samaritan Center, same year, 2002, $10,000. 2005 to 2009, NDNA Education Foundation, $50,000. 2005, Job Development Authority, buyout of the daycare center, which my daughter owned, $25,000. 2006, Meadowlarks Arms Council, and this is a Levi's Eagle Scout project, marquee for the theater, $1,100. Still 2006, Divide County Care, Warners Field renovation, major renovation at Warners Field, $10,000. 2007, Jobs Development Authority, heating plant for the daycare center. The heating plant was lousy, $10,000. St. Luke's Community Foundation with a lead gift for the first villas, $151,000. North Dakota Historic Society, History Heroes, $10,000. 2008, Medora Foundation, $5,000. 2008, North Dakota Heritage Center, $10,000. And again, that's for the History Heroes for Expansion Project. 2009, Upper Missouri Ministerial Capital Fund, $5,000. 2009, again, St. Luke's Community Foundation, Elaine's Garden, $13,500. 2010, pretty impressive, isn't it? 2010, Medora Foundation, $100,000. 2010, St. Luke's Community Foundation, for the expansion for the other 8 units, $150,000. 2012, St. Luke's Foundation, Community Foundation, Therapy Pool, $25,000. 2012 still, Lewis and Clark Foundation, $25,000. Same year, 2012, Lewis and Clark Foundation, another $1,000. 2013, Crosby Health and Wellness Center, $250,000. 2013, Medora Foundation, Elaine's Garden, $30,000. Oh, I'm getting thirsty here. Hang on a second. Okay, continue on. 2014, Meadowlarks Arts Council Endowment, $197,513. 2014, Medora Foundation, $250,000. Solutions Inc., which is the Youth Counseling Office, $4,975. Still 2014. Concordia College Special Exhibits, $1,000. That totals up to a grand total of $1,683,528. $1,683,528. I know there's several things that are not included in that, because this started in 2001. Andrist football field, you put, I don't know how much money into that, probably 25,000, maybe more. And it's a nice field, it's got a nice entryway. The golf course, if you golf, those benches out there, the red benches and the garbage cans, they're nice plastic, you know, they're out there. Bought all those, all 9 holes. They did landscaping because there was drainage was terrible, I think on hole 4. Fix it up, send me the bill. PBS has been another big thing of John's. I'm not sure how much money you gave them, John, but I know PBS has been real important to his whole family. The list goes on, but that's just to give you an idea what John has done for our community, and not just Crosby, but for the state of North Dakota. I told John, this is what I'm going to allude to now, I told John several weeks ago that with the, he's probably been our biggest giver, no doubt about it, in Crosby. There's no comparison to what others have given, to what John's given. But with the oil boom, there's probably 100 people that are much wealthier than John. What would they do with their money? Nothing. I said, if we can get 5 people that do what John has done, look at the things we could do for Crosby in the area. Or North Dakota. We don't just give to Crosby, just anybody in North Dakota. Because I can tell you, they're paying taxes on that. You just well give it to somebody you love and where you live instead of giving it to the government. John's challenge, he's told me this many times, he loves giving. He says he's selfish. It's for him. But aren't we the recipients of all what he's given? I mean, it's pretty impressive. But his challenge is for others to do what he's done. And make yourself happier, make a lot of other people happy as well. I remember what my dad said. He was a very generous man to my brothers and myself and to others. He said, it's much better feeling to give when your hand is warm than when it's cold. It's much better to give whether your hand is warm than when it's cold. Somebody's going to spend your money. It's not going to be you. You can't take it with you. So think about that. Interesting fact, Doug Groppe told me a couple weeks back, 50% of the mineral workers in Divide County are not owned by people that live in Divide County, or even in our state. All that wealth is going out of Divide County, out of our state. When we did the tax district, Northwest Hospital tax district in 1991, I went up to the courthouse and went through all the records. Over 50% of the surface area land is not owned by people that live in Divide County. Pretty interesting, isn't it? All that wealth is leaving our county, maybe even our state. Okay, anyway, I thought that was pretty impressive. At this time, we'd like to call on our honored guest, John Andrist, for some remarks.
My friend, the late Ralph Easton, used to say when he was, used to speak of an analogy of a guy that was tarred and feathered, which is the way they ran people out of town in the old days. He said, I'd rather not do this if I wasn't the guest of honor. Well, you know, when I found out a little bit about what was going on here, how many people were going to share this podium, I thought, my gosh, it's going to wear out those people. There's too many words. Well, I've suffered for an hour and a half. So if I run over, I don't care anymore. There's a couple things I want to say, and I hope I don't forget them. The first thing that you have to remember is I haven't given away anything I didn't have. And I didn't have anything somebody else didn't give me first. It's important, I think, if there's one gift I could be remembered for, and the thing that I like best about anything that was said today, is I inspire, if not what I give, but if I inspire somebody else to understand how much pure joy you can get when you give yourself either your time or your money. It's there, folks. Don't let it go to the grave with you. I haven't gone to the poorhouse for anything I've given. I got about as much as I ever have. I don't know why God keeps giving it back to me. Maybe He's got some ideas. And that's mostly the message I want to get across. We don't live in a vacuum. And our joy is making life better for somebody else. Think of it. What toy is reaped that you accumulated, even if you worked hard for it, you really, are you really excited about today? But when somebody comes to you and says, you did something for me I'll never forget, and it was nice, how can you not melt? So many of you have been so nice just to come today. And I'm so grateful for you. I hold all of you in my heart. As I fought, excuse me, it isn't just me, it's my voice that's kind of impaired by the stroke too. As I fought with myself all summer, you know, I don't want to go. I read the Bible some, and I have never found the word retirement in it. I don't think any of us are put here to retire. But there's something that needs to be done. And even now, as I leave for Fargo for another chapter, and really grieve about leaving you, I'm thinking, John, if you want to make this work, you got to find a purpose for helping somebody else. Now that's selfish, and I want you to be selfish enough to want to help other people, because it's you that gets the dividend from it. And I have a lot of passions, as you know, and I thank you for listening to me, and I thank you for loving me. There's a lot of overstatement here. Levi went on way too long. It's because he's a lawyer, not because he's an Andrist. And C said too many kind things. Everything I'd done in the newspaper industry was just like everything else, is selfish. Love to see things happen. Truth. If I played any part in getting Steve to come home and getting Cease to continue the tradition, this journal, I don't have anything to do with it anymore. But you need to know it's the finest weekly newspaper you can find. They aren't all like this. My mom most used to say to me, you know, in everything you do, you never have to apologize if you feel you've done your best. So let's go out and do our best and build a better Crosby, a better Divide County, a better North Dakota, a better Medora. What do you love in your life? Make it better. And thank you for coming.
right, Levi did speak a long time, didn't you? Some great stories, though. Okay, at this time, we have some gifts we want to give John. And the first one down there, I want to give him the envelope there. Is Johnny Langberg. They love the arts. And obviously the Meadowlarks Arts Council is a recipient of what he's given to them. So we have, from our community, from our group, Fargo Moorhead Sympathy, for 2 people, tickets for the season. First one starts November 15th. So you can take you and somebody else, some honey or somebody. So that's 2 tickets for the season. Fargo Sympathy down there. Moorhead, Fargo Moorhead Sympathy. Okay, next thing is a memory gift book. Is that in the bag there, Cecilia?
Yes.
Okay. Tanya Gillen put it together for our community. And it's got lots of pictures of John and other people in it, of his causes, and places he's been to, so I think he'll really enjoy that. So we're going to give that to you as well, John. It's in this sack here, and we thank Tanya for putting it together for us. I know she spent a lot of hours on that. And then the third thing just came, which is kind of interesting. A teacher at the high school, did you know what it did?
Grade school.
Grade school, did this, and it says, Time Magazine, Senator John Andrist. John, we are tied at the hip, because I had one of these things when I was with Colgate Palmer. I was on the Time Magazine as well, so we're kind of tied at the hip there. Anyway, Man of the Year, Senator John Andrist, but what's really neat, all the kids signed it. And it says here, Mr. Andrist, for all you have done for our schools, for Crosby, and for our wonderful state of North Dakota. With heartfelt thanks and appreciation, Divide County Elementary and Divide County High School. I think that's pretty awesome, John. Okay, John, I want to thank you. We hope you winter well in Fargo. We hate to see you go, but I know you feel you have to. We look forward to you coming back in the spring. You are coming back, aren't you?
Hope so.
Hope so too. You know, you're not in charge. Who's in charge? You know, it's kind of interesting because if you ask kids who is probably a big giver in Divide County or in Crosby, they all think of Frank Kirchhofer. Kirchhofer Auditorium. That's nothing compared to what he's given to our community. So I know the Andrist name will live on, and the Health and Wellness Center, that's pretty awesome for naming it for John. But we want to thank you for everybody for coming today and helping us celebrate this. Ed.
May I have the mic for a
You
minute?
can. 2 minutes. No, come on over. Come on the front here.
Since the conception of the Northwest Chorus, there's been an Andrist singing every year. Cousin Shirley stepped down this year, so we will not have an Andrist singing since the conception of 1970. John was a member of the chorus for many, many years. I had one problem with him. John, I lead, you follow. John, watch me. I love directing a cappella numbers because we would sing. I would change some things in the middle of rehearsal. I would give a cutoff. John would keep singing because he wasn't watching. John, thank you for your years of Northwest Chorus, being part of it. And most of you know, some of you don't. I started singing in 1976, and so I've known John for a long time. In 1986, I married a Fosland, so now I'm related to John. And I'm 3/4 of Crosby. My wife and Deary Lane were first cousins. And we've shared some many times together and laughs. Thank you, John, for singing.
Pretty involved in the Northwest Chorus. Is there somebody else want to say something?
That's Shirley.
Shirley, raise your hand. Right there, Shirley Andrist? That's the one he's referring to. Oh, yep. Thank you. Again, thanks everybody for coming today and helping us honor John as we did. Got to be kind of a roast at times, but that's great. We've got some great stories. John's been a great friend of mine for these years, and I really look forward to him coming back. Thanks, everybody.